I'm fine. Okay. I'd like to share with you a few thoughts on, it's a little bit of a different change of pace from where we've been through all of the technical things. And I'm going to share with you a few thoughts about optimizing arthroscopic motor skill development and the experiences that we've had with the Arthroscopy Association of North America over the last 20 years. I do want to, I also share a couple of opportunities with you that AANA may offer you. I'll share that at the end. But I do want to say that I'm very impressed with the quality of this meeting so far. The content has really been quite amazing. And I didn't get to ask my question at the last thing, so I'm just going to make one statement, and that was Dr. Alessandro Nardin and the case that he presented regarding infection. We learn so much from our worst cases. And so the fact that he was willing to share that with us was very heartfelt. So I know I learned a lot from that, so I think that's very important. So we learn from those tough cases or our mistakes or just the tough ones. So I thank you for that. So we're going to kind of walk through this, the optimization of arthroscopic motor skills and some of the things that we've learned. Once again, greetings from the AANA leadership. That includes President James Stone, CEO Laura Downs, past President Mark Gettleman. And most of the stuff I'm about to share with you is based off of experiences with AANA and the Orthopedic Learning Center over the last 20 years. Certainly the keys to arthroscopic motor skill development, most of these you'll know, are you have to begin by optimizing fundamental skills. And then repetition is critical to motor skill development and developing motor memory. The proficiency-based skill progression, and we're going to talk about that because it's been a key mission for AANA as compared to a mentorship model in terms of optimizing motor skill development. And then finally, developing validated assessment tools to assure quality. Hopefully, this will be of interest to you for several different reasons. One is you can give back to your training programs for the residency that are in development, encourage them to do these types of things. You're naturally going to pick up on new technical skills yourself, and these may give you some pearls of how to optimize that. And then, of course, if you train residents, it'll give you some clues there too. So some critical moments in history. AANA actually began about 40 years ago with the dedication to the mission of education of arthroscopic and developing arthroscopy as a tool. In 1982, it was founded, and in 1992, they developed the first orthopedic learning center that was basically dedicated to hands-on motor skill learning, technical skill learning at the Orthopedic Learning Center. Interestingly, it wasn't until a few years later that they actually dedicated a course to the fundamentals. In 2015, they actually recreated the Orthopedic Learning Center, so there's now a brand new, it's gorgeous learning center in Rosemont. You should come up to see some of the, perform different cadaveric studies, practice skills there. Dr. Howard Sweeney, a mentor of mine, is really one of the developers of both the Learning Center and the passion about motor skill development. In 2001, so now about 20 years ago, when Dr. James Esch was the president of AANA, I actually came up with an idea, and I said, you know what? We've all taken these courses from AO to learn how to do fracture work. In fact, all of our residents get sent to the AO course to learn fractures. Yeah, we teach them stuff, but they all go to that course. And I suggested to Dr. Esch, perhaps AANA should actually take the lead here and do the arthroscopy fundamentals or the arthroscopy basic course. So we would teach residents across certainly the United States, but really we've had international residents come to learn basic fundamental skills. And so over the years, that's really the foundation of the development of some of the different motor skill development of AANA. In 2009, they had a different vision, and that was what they called the Magellan Project. And Magellan was a world traveler, international, and what they suggested was that we go out into the world and actually think out of the box of how we're doing teaching, rather than a mentorship. I have somebody coming to learn, and technically then they come into the operating room and they're practicing on patients, is can we do that better? And in fact, not only can we do it that way, but actually can we prove that they have the skills to advance? Prove that they have the fundamental skills, the technical skills before they're practicing on patients. And what they learned from actually looking at things like the National Aeronautics Space Association, NASA, and major airline groups and other major businesses is that a proficiency-based advancement is actually more effective than an apprenticeship model. In 2011, under the guidance of Dr. Richard Angelo, a past president of AANA, they developed a Copernicus initiative that said if we're going to do proficiency basis, we have to have some metrics to actually be able to assess this. And so what they did is they came up with a model using Bankart surgery so that they broke it down into all the sequential pieces, and then they would say, and they could actually watch you. You could actually send in a video of you performing a Bankart in their sequence, and they could grade you and say you're proficient at doing the scope, you're proficient at doing the debridement, you are sufficient at anchor placement all along the pathway. And so we actually have, and that's been validated as a measurable way to assess proficiencies. So if you want to start off, we want to think about practice, practice, practice. And you could do this. I know it's a cute little girl here brushing her teeth, but we talk about telling our residents to actually brush their teeth with their right hand, brush their teeth with their left hand, stand on one foot, stand on the other. Try to start becoming ambidextrous, write with both hands. Dr. Howard Sweeney would actually have residents play these games on video, but because of the Wii device, you could, you turn, you play tennis with your right hand. Well, guess what? You can play it with the left hand and see how good you can get at it, and you start practicing some of these different skills, which will help you immensely arthroscopically. Another thing that you want to practice, and that we can practice that hasn't even got into an arthroscope yet, is this concept of three-dimensional visualization. It's really necessary for all of us as orthopedic surgeons, but not all residents have that naturally. And certainly practicing it, teaching it actually can get there. This concept of, can you, on the first time, just with fluoroscopic guidance, get your guide pin center in the femoral head? I watch my junior residents, and they're like floating in the breeze until I start giving them concepts of what they have to think about. Where is that in 3 dimensions, and how they're going to aim it before they actually start breaking the bone or actually entering the pin through the bone. But you can teach it, so it is trainable. So one of those trainable techniques that AANA came up with in conjunction with the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons and American Board of Orthopedic Surgeons is this Fundamentals in Arthroscopy tool. If you haven't seen it, I'm going to walk you through it. And I would suggest that you have, wherever program you train from, make sure they get a hold of it. If you're teaching residents now, get a hold of it, because it's a great skill building tool that if you have residents with you later, they will be better in your operating room because they played with these devices. So the FAST station is basically this complex group of materials here. You have a clear dome, a solid dome, and you have these different modules that you can work and practice different skills with. And you can see the picture on the right has one of the, like a practice rotator cuff model within this clear dome. And so what you do is you practice working first with no dome, then through a dome that's clear so you don't need a scope, and then finally you hide your target under the dome, and now you have to put a scope in and actually start using scoping, three-dimensionalization. And in fact, they've broken down arthroscopy into sequential skills. Things like visualization, triangulation, horizontal control of your arthroscope, and you break those down, and we can teach those. And so you can see the picture on the right. This is actually now controlling horizontal control. And so we're going to ask the resident to follow the black line in a straight line with their scope, follow the red line with their scope. And they need to do that both with their left hand and their right hand. And in fact, that's the whole game here. They're going to switch back and forth with each of these challenges with their left and their right hand. The picture on your left is a way to practice telescoping and periscoping, which means when you get deeper, things get closer, and when you get back up, they get broader. And so the goal here, as you can see on the picture on that right, it has actually look like little eyeballs, but the pupils are smaller at the top, bigger at the bottom. And what they need to do is they need to advance their scope in until the red is out of the picture, the black is in the picture, And the bigger it gets, the harder it is to do, because it's just you have to get in a specific zone to be able to control it. So you practice this going in and out and getting a perspective for the joint. Similarly, the picture on the right, you ask them to, now they have to rotate the scope, so they want to get a perpendicular view of each of the numbers in order and basically have the circle perfectly in the screen. It just gives them something to practice. Another thing then is now random probing. Now actually triangulating, putting a scope in your left or your right hand, a probe in the opposite hand, and can you touch things in space? And you can see this little device that's also part of the package is all those little blue circles, they're numbers. And you can actually then say, go in, on your mark, get set, go in order. Or they're going to learn where everything's at. You give them a fresh order and say, find number 12, find number 2. And you can time this, and they have to use the scope to orient and touch each of the numbers. And again, you can see you can do it through the clear dome, and then you make it harder by putting it in the opaque dome to look through. Next thing, we start practicing some type of a manipulation. Now we've just touched things, we've oriented, we've looked things, now you can touch things. This is a gradual sequential treatment of motor skills for arthroscopy that is proven to work. And so what we have is these vertical ring transfers, little plastic rings, and this is going to be the horizontal transfer that you see pictured. And basically what they have to do is they get a grasping device, they grab the ring, and they transfer it from the right side to the left side, or we have some that are actually stacked up so that they actually have to transfer these things in space. And again, they'll time themselves, left hand, right hand, and they count how many drops they get as a measurement tool. One fun game that they'll do is these little rings. They can actually stack them on top of each other, and I think the world record is 7 green tabs stacked on top of each other. So if you ever get to play with the device, that's what you want to do. And in fact, they love games. Then we can practice resection. So we've created this pseudo meniscus that you can basically cut out of a little thin piece of cardboard. It fits into a fixed device. And then the goal here is, you can see where they have the 2 little black rings, and what you need to do is actually remove as much white as you can of that inner black ring without touching the next line. If you go too far and violate the line, now you've actually not controlled your biter. So there's ways to say how fast did you did it, and did you do it completely without violating the line. Next is another triangulation technique, but now it's moving through space. And through both the clear and opaque domes, left and right hand, you actually push this little metal ball through a maze. But interestingly, they have a larger ball and a smaller ball, and the smaller balls are harder to do because it's actually moving around more liberally in space. The device is available. I get nothing from it, from a company called Sawbones. You can get the whole set. And basically then you also want to make sure that you have some type of a scope or light source. Sawbones does offer a device. If you want to partner with one of these companies outside over here, again, I have no partnership with them, but the nanoscope works really well. And so that company actually provided our residents a nanoscope that goes with our little suitcase, which has this entire fast station. It includes the cannulas, different types of grabbing tools, the grasper, knot pushers, probes, things like that, all to be able to just be ready to go. Next thing is there's and I'll show you in a second how to practice knot tying with this device. And now if you think you're going to use all this ortho cord and fiber wire and whatever company, I get no money from this, but whatever company's high fancy suture, that gets fairly expensive. You want to do it less expensive. You get suture, fly line back, you fake the suture as fly line backing. Fly line backing actually has about the same texture as fiber wire, and it's much cheaper. So you can get a whole spool of it and just practice as much as you want. So you think I'm just telling you stories? No, we actually have some evidence for how these things have actually worked. And so this is a knot tying device. It was one of the easiest ones for us to test for efficiencies. And it's a module that just goes, it plugs in it, and it has that little metal spindle, and we can practice with a rope, and we practice knot tying right down that spindle. And what you can see, and here you can see the pictures of knot on a spindle. That knot will come right off the spindle, and you slide it down onto B, which is this little dowel that measures how tight your knot was on the spindle. If it falls all the way down to the second notch from the bottom, which is actually a red color, you failed. You didn't tie it tight enough. And so you can actually assess it not only right away, but there's a knot testing device. The knot testing device is the thing you see on the bottom right, and actually you just load your knot on it, pull tension on it at about 20 or 25 pounds, hold it there for 5 seconds, and see if your knot holds. If your knot doesn't hold in the lab, it's not going to hold when you're doing surgery. So you need to make sure that these things are effective. So there was actually studies done using this knot testing device, and this was one that was published by Rob Pedowitz and Greg Nicandri and a few other folks. And what they did is they just assessed a variety of residents, and they were trying to create some metric of what was successful. And what they found was faculty, us, didn't practice with this device. Us, going in, tying knots, had a 24% failure rate on the knot testing device. Because we oftentimes just start throwing knots and we didn't really think about what we were doing. Interestingly, our trained residents, after we go through a knot training session, how to tie proper knots, their failure rate was about 11%. And you could do better than that, because I can get 5 out of 5 pretty routinely. So our standard has been to ask our residents to get 3 in a row that don't fail. And in fact, you can see some of the variations of the picture on the right. Students who learned to get about 2 out of 5. Residents get 3 out of 5, and attendings get about 4 out of 5. But with training, everybody can actually significantly improve. And this is another study that was done using the knot tying device. We've actually done other tests using the FAST device in general. And you can see the top picture on the right, which actually shows pre-training. You can see how many failures you have, which is the orange studies on the right. And then post-training, which is blue, you can see that they have significantly higher success rates. Not perfect, but significantly higher success rates. And so virtually everything that we've done with the knot testing does show that training helps. But the other thing that we found is it can't just train them once. You have to then follow up, because if they forget about it, they haven't been practicing their knots for several months, they're going to fall back again. Not as bad as beginners, but they're going to fall backwards. Interestingly, with a brief update, they can catch up very quickly. So other than the knot tying station, another motor skill development issue has been the development of the simulators. There's a variety of simulators out there, and AANA has actually implemented them into our teaching programs, and they actually have them on site at the Orthopedic Learning Center. They have significant advantages because some of these metrics of success, there's automated scoring systems, so it will say how fast were you, how much did you touch everything. They actually have integrated the FAST program into their computer software, which is nice, and they're improving their haptics. What is haptics? Haptics is, does it really feel like you're doing an arthroscope, or is it just a floppy piece of metal in space? When they started doing these devices, there was no feedback. It was all just kind of float and stuff. So you didn't feel like you were holding the weight of a scope. You didn't feel like you had the resistance inside the joint. They're improving that tremendously, and so the newest simulators are better and better. But they're still very expensive. And one way that we've offset some of the expenses, at least in Chicago, is we had 3 programs by 1 device. And then we rotate the device between the 3 programs, and the residents practice with it when it's on site. And so AANA certainly is partnering with that. And so some of the pearls to optimizing the use of training models. We want to orient the student regarding how to use the device and the modules. What does that mean? I will tell you, with the FAST station, I created this. I brought it to the university. I said, hey guys, it's in the library. Go play with it. Well, they got nothing from that. So then I go, well, you know what, AANA, and this is true, AANA has videos of each of the challenges to use a FAST station. Go watch the videos and then use it. I had about 2 of my 35 residents do that and actually improve. Compared to I go in and I orient them, I tell them how it works, I tell them what it is. Now, I don't have to be there the whole time, but once they're oriented, now they're into it. Then they're going to use it better. we need to set benchmarks of success. And in fact, the FAST station has all of that says the average senior resident can transfer the vertical or the horizontal ring transfers in 35 seconds. Oh, they go, okay, if I want to be an average senior resident, now I got to work hard to do that. So they had those measurements. We can create mini competitions in terms of the timing of it, or how many rings they stack up, or different ways of tying knots competitions, and the residents seem to love the competition, so they get more into it. Then beyond that, then when you get into the operating room and you have a resident, or you're assessing somebody's development, you can use an asset tool. And you go, what the heck is he talking about now? The asset tool is actually now, instead of practicing with these devices, it's really designed to now walk through an assessment of somebody's skills. And so it assesses them for, if they say, okay, let's go do a diagnostic arthroscopy, it says, did they have an appropriate field of view? Did they make portals properly? Do they apparently have good dexterity, good bimanual dexterity, left and right hands? And you can grade those on novice, competent, or expert, and they get a number, and this tool has been validated, and it validates, actually, you can do it on a cadaver specimen, you can do it on a model, and you can do it when they come to your operating room to work with you. And so that you can give them actually good validated feedback for how they're progressing. In terms of other things, I told you about orienting them. You want to have scheduled faculty oversight and feedback. After they practice it, you want to look at them and watch them use it. Say, yes, you did a nice job. That goes a long way. Ready availability of the devices and tools. We originally put the FAST devices in the library because I thought it was easy. Yes, it was readily available, but they didn't really use it. Next thing you know, I required the fourth-year resident for the first month of his rotation on sports medicine to take the suitcase with him home. I oriented him, I told him what to do, and he had an assignment. And then he had to assign it to a junior resident the next month. That got people working much better. In fact, our 1 month agenda, day one, they pick up the suitcase with the FAST station, the nanoscope, all of the tools. I meet with them and I go, this is how it works. I also teach them 3 knots, so they know how to do the knots appropriately. And on week 1, they're practicing at least 3 times a day, each of the modules, tying 10 knots a day through the clear dome. Getting to see it, it's a little easier. Then weeks 2 to 4, they put the opaque dome on, and they use the scope to then do the same different challenges. So by the time they're done, I do an exit with them, and they've improved significantly. And I've seen in my operating room a significant change over the last couple of years when I've had them do this technique compared to just say, go practice. Their skill sets in the operating room are way better, which means I can turn them more of the case when they're learning. So this is, if you've not read this book by Malcolm Gladwell, it's called Outliers. It's amazing. It basically says practice isn't the thing you do once you're good, it's the thing you do that makes you good. And in fact, what he did is said, what are some of these great people in the world that are outliers? Say like a Bill Gates, say like all these great successful people. And he said there's a variety of things that make them outliers. And one of those, and it's the foundational thing to his thing here, is 10,000 hours of practice. So when you finally become this excellent thing, it's often because you've had 10,000 hours of practice. And what does that mean is you got to get the residents and people in training to practice their skills. That's how they're going to get better. So here's a comparative study about improving resident performance in knee arthroscopy. And basically what it was comparing here is a control group that really had no training, a control group that used the simulator, which is significantly better than no training, and then finally using a cadaver. And so the question is have we can we get past cadaver training to build their skill sets? And simulators haven't accomplished that yet. However, I think the two are very complementary because simulators you can practice over and over and over again. Cadavers is very expensive and you got a one-time practice on it. And so I think it's something that you develop into. You use FAST, you use simulators, then you get to practice on the cadaver. And once you've proven through an asset that you're really good at it, Then you go to the operating room and start working in the operating room with patients. That's the safest way to advance. Another method, and we talked about it briefly, we talked about the FAST method. This was another key initiative of AANA. It was called the Copernicus Initiative, led by Richard Angelo. Rob Pettit was involved, Anthony Gallagher, a variety of people. And what they did is they broke down an arthroscopic Bankart repair into all of its different pieces, and then basically figured out which of those we could actually look at and measure and say, can you actually evaluate that somebody looked at certain different aspects, touched different aspects? If you can, then that was gradable. They figured out what was gradable, and they actually had an inter-rater reliability index of about 0.93, which once it was developed was really quite accurate. And they found that it was a very valid and reproducible assessment dependable for high-stakes exams. High-stakes exams, that's a scary thing because one of the people that helped develop the FAST station was the American Board of Orthopedic Surgeons, because they were pushing residency programs not to let residents get into the operating room until they proved proficiency, which could mean that over time they were going to ask us to prove proficiency before you were entitled to do arthroscopic procedures or things. They're certainly looking at that. I think they've backed away from that a little bit over time, but I think it's something we have to pay attention to, certainly in our residency training to assure proficiencies. So lessons learned from hands-on cadaver courses, in-lab sequential proficiency-based advancement sets a high-quality standard of excellence. So again, we don't let them into the cadaver until they've proven that they're successful with their knot tying and with the FAST station. Then you can't actually do arthroscopic techniques like the fun ACLs we just had nice videos on until you can actually show that you passed your diagnostic arthroscopy asset, that you could get around inside safely. And then if you fail any of those, it's not an embarrassment. You go back and practice a little bit more until you can get there. That mechanism works very nice. We, of course, need high-quality, passionate station faculty who buy into this concept of proficiency-based learning. When they do, the system works very well. And I've taught hundreds of courses over the years, and the residents absolutely love these courses because it's very one-to-one focused types of experiences. Not all specimens are perfect, but you can get a lot done on an anatomic specimens. Models and simulators we just talked about are great, but they simply right now don't meet the standards that you can get by practicing live surgical procedures on a cadaveric specimen. And you can always learn, whether that's a resident or whether that's a young attending or whether that's you or me. Never too old to learn, and I learned from the residents when we do these courses. I learned by going in to do a new course on a new technique. It's really amazing what I have to learn to say, oh, I wanted to see how somebody did an arthroscopic ladder Xiii. Okay, that's a little crazy. I go to the lab and I go practice first on a model to see what my sequence is, then I get into the lab and practice it several times before I ever try to do it on a patient. So we talked a little bit about the potential for certifications in the future. I don't think they're going for that quite now, but it's something to think about. Last thing I'm going to leave you with is just a few messages from the Arthroscopy Association of North America. You've seen this slide from a couple of different people. I know that several of my colleagues here are members of AANA, and AANA actually loves its South American partners, and they have several members here in Peru. So it's easy to become a member, and we're going to talk to you about a little bit some of the benefits that you could potentially have. So AANA.org is the access point. The mission of AANA is really to advance the art and science of arthroscopy through education, skills assessment, and advocacy. It's got over 5,000 members, 80 different countries, so it is global, and it's really part of the international community. There's 9 different members, 9 other medical specialty societies that AANA works with to advance the profession. 8 international association meetings where AANA sent faculty in 2019. We kind of dropped off over COVID, but actually participated virtually with a number of international associations over the year. We partner with virtually every organization partnership, all the corporate partners, and patient safety is paramount. to most everything that we do, and it should be paramount to what you do, and so practicing your skills is quite helpful. We talked about the 5,000 members. According to Louis McIntyre, who's a past president, AANA stays ahead of events and imagines how education and training can be improved and simplified with electronic platforms, surgical simulations, surgical skills assessments, and it really has its members at the best heart. Now here's the best deal, and again, AANA.org. You get continuing education. You get the journal for free electronically. There's scholarship and grant opportunities to come to Chicago to take courses or attend the annual meeting, and so it's pretty cost efficient. The OLC is beautiful if you get to come to one of the sessions there. I was actually president of the OLC when it was built, so I actually got to pick some of the colors and the flooring and the wall coloring, and it's really top notch. It's amazing. Some remaining 2022 lab courses that are available. There's shoulder courses, knee courses, foot and ankle courses, foundational courses for residents, all kinds of good things still to come in terms of those lab courses. Just examples of the journal, technical journal, arthroscopic podcasts, all available. Also available to you if you become a member is the online journal. And then in 2023, our next annual meeting is going to be in May of 2023 in New Orleans. So that's what I have to share with you. Thanks for letting AANA participate. We've had about three of our members participate. Thank you for listening and letting us participate in the course.
Muchas gracias a usted, Dr. Hutchinson, por su muy interesante exposición.
Por favor, todos los colegas se paran que vamos a cantar el himno nacional. Tengan la amabilidad.
Que la patria al eterno elevó. Tomen asiento, por favor. Buenas noches. Quiero darles la bienvenida a esta ceremonia de inauguración del 13º Congreso Internacional de Cirugía Artroscópica del Perú. A continuación quiero darle el pase al doctor Luis Zagal, presidente del capítulo de Cirugía Artroscópica del Perú.
Muy buenas noches. Me es muy grato para mí dirigirme a ustedes y darles la bienvenida a este 23º Congreso de Cirugía Artroscópica del Internacional, ¿no? Que estamos realizándolo de manera presencial después de la pandemia y después de todos estos acontecimientos que nos obligaron a no reencontrarnos. Quiero agradecerle a los profesores que han venido a visitarnos y que están colaborando con nosotros. Muchas gracias a ellos por compartir sus experiencias y conocimientos y agradecerles a ustedes por su presencia, porque sin ella no sería un éxito esta reunión, ¿no? Muchas gracias.
Gracias, doctor Zagal. A continuación quiero invitar al doctor Horacio Rivarola, que nos va a hablar en nombre de los conferencistas extranjeros. Bienvenido.
Bueno, muchas gracias, buenas noches. Es para mí un honor representar a todos los colegas internacionales invitados por el capítulo de artroscopía del Perú. No tengo más que palabras de agradecimiento, de felicitaciones por la organización, por la seriedad, por la calidez que transmiten, por cómo están poniendo a la educación de Latinoamérica arriba, por cómo siempre nutren con, digamos, excelentes exponentes que vienen de todos lados del mundo y cómo aquí nos hacen sentir una familia que cree que hay que apostar a la educación, como nos mostraba Mark recién, que nunca somos grandes para seguir aprendiendo, y esto es lo que agradecemos, el hecho de poder seguir aprendiendo. Creo que todos los aquí presentes aprendemos mucho, nos llevamos tips, nos llevamos perlas, nos llevamos cosas de colegas que vienen de distintos lugares de nuestra región y cómo el Perú se está formando un gran equipo que une a Latinoamérica y que lleva a representantes de Perú a posicionarlo, por ejemplo, en SLAD. Así que, sin más, creo que el agradecimiento es nuestro hacia todo el capítulo. En nombre de su presidente, Luis Zagal, y toda la comisión directiva, les brindo un gran abrazo y un aplauso por este enorme y gran congreso.
Muchas gracias, doctor Rivarola. A continuación, también un gusto para mí presentar al doctor David Torres Manrique, presidente de la Sociedad Peruana de Ortopedia y Traumatología.
Muy buenas noches, queridos amigos. Es para nosotros un honor estar una vez más reunidos en un evento grande como es el Congreso del capítulo de Cirugía Artroscópica. Recuerdo la primera vez cuando empezamos el primer congreso y lo hicimos con mucho entusiasmo, como hoy se está desarrollando el 13º congreso bajo la presidencia de un gran amigo y hermano, Luis Zagal. Lucho, para ti y todo tu consejo directivo les auguro un gran futuro y sobre todo la forma como tan brillante han desarrollado y están desarrollando este congreso. De igual manera, veo gente, muchachos muy jóvenes, y estamos en este momento, en el recambio en la cual hay nuevos médicos, nueva generación de médicos que llegan de entrenarse en el extranjero y están formando parte del consejo directivo de esta sociedad. Para todos ustedes, el mensaje es: tienen que ingresar a trabajar por esta sociedad. La única forma de poder crecer es que ustedes pongan su grano de arena y nosotros, los que estamos por encima de los 55 para arriba, estaremos escuchándolos, porque eso tiene que ser así. Ustedes son la nueva generación de médicos que tienen que seguir trabajando por este país. De igual manera, invitarlos al 52 Congreso de la Sociedad que se va a desarrollar del 21 al 24 de septiembre de este año aquí en el Hotel Swiss Hotel, donde también invitamos a todos los residentes y a todos los médicos jóvenes a presentar sus trabajos de investigación. El trabajo ganador se irá becado con una beca integral, pasaje, inscripción y hospedaje al Congreso de ISACOS, que se desarrollará en Boston el año siguiente, 2023. Para finalizar, agradecer a todos los amigos que han venido de América Latina y de Estados Unidos a compartir estas experiencias con nosotros. Y finalmente, quiero recordar las frases de un gran profesor, Freddy Fu, a quienes ustedes, muchos lo han conocido o han escuchado de él. Y él siempre decía, la suerte lo tienen todos, el éxito solamente es de quien trabaja. Y eso es lo que se está trabajando en estos consejos directivos para que este país sea grande. Muchas gracias. Y ahora tengo el placer de dar por inaugurado este Congreso y que todo sea muy bien como brillantemente se ha desarrollado en el transcurso del día. Feliz noche a todos ustedes.
Gracias, doctor Torres. A continuación, damos por concluida la ceremonia y los invitamos a pasar a compartir con nosotros unos aperitivos.